Hello and welcome to Otterwood Cottage, our beautiful small holding in the heart of the Lincolnshire countryside. I'm Emma and we're delighted to have you along with us. We've got an exciting week ahead. I've got a couple of days off before the new year and really looking forward to getting stuck into a couple of projects that we have been waiting to get started on the small holding and are able to do now because we've had some deliveries arrive. So the first of those projects, which I'll be sharing with you in today's video, is that the fruit cage, all of the trees and the bushes that we have purchased to go in there arrived last week. Unfortunately, we were away when they arrived. Our lovely family who were house sitting and cat sitting for us stored them very carefully. But they have been sat in their delivery boxes since they came. So I'm worried on a number of fronts about this fruit cage plant, which I'll share with you as we go through. But the first worry is that they have been sat too long. Ideally, obviously, we would have got them out of the box and planted within a couple of days, and they have been sat for a week. When I opened the box this morning, though, there is a lovely sign inside that says, "Don't worry if your roots have dried out, it's the dormant season." So that was nice and reassuring. But we've got a collection of fruit trees and fruit bushes arrived, which we will be planting in that fruit cage today. I'm very excited about that, and we'll bring you along with us as we do. Come along. Now, my second worry about planting these fruit bushes and fruit trees is how boggy the area is that we're going to be planting into. We've still got lots of standing water, and the area where we've sited the fruit cage does appear to have some water sitting underneath it. It's not everywhere, but in a couple of places we're going to be planting trees. I think we're going to be planting into a fair amount of standing water. I don't really know how to solve that problem because we can't leave the trees unplanted for any longer. As I said, they've already had a week in the box and I'm worried about them from that point of view. So it's a little bit of a catch-22, and it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other as to whether we risk putting them in the ground where it's wet. We are due a bit of a spell of drier weather, but that seems to be changing minute by minute on the forecast. So I really don't know if this is going to dry out in time for them to get what they need from the water. We would normally water them in well, so we want them to be in a certain amount of water, but I'm really worried they might rot off, and I could be about to make the biggest mistake ever, and I'm sure somebody on here will tell me if I have, but I'm not really sure what else we can do other than hope for the best. Over time, I think we'll build this up further. Once we've got lots of planting, the woodland should take care of a lot of the standing water once that gets going, and so over time we should solve the water related issues on the land. But for now, we're planting some fruit trees and bushes that we're really excited about and could well just kill, and they might just rot off. But you know what? If that happens, we'll have learnt from it. We'd be sad and we'd lose another year of potential harvest, because fruit trees are obviously a long-term harvest plan. But I think the right thing to do is get them in the ground. Cross our fingers, hope for the best, and one of the things we think we're going to do in future is to put some land drainage in around, probably when we start building the pond, we're going to put land drainage in around the pond to drain away some of the water in case ducks are ever using it and in case it floods. And we're also going to put, when we're doing that, and we'll hire a digger for the process of that, we'll dig some trenches around this fruit cage and the growing area and funnel all of the excess water either into the pond or into the dikes that surround the property. So we do have a long-term plan for this, but right now I've got some trees and bushes that need planting. I've got a piece of land they're going into. It's a bit boggy, it's a bit too wet. We may well end up regretting this, but we're forging on, and they'll just have to either survive or not, and that will be how it is. In other news, I've just remembered, because I mentioned it, in really exciting news, we had the site survey from the Woodland Trust and they have confirmed that we are approved. So we are just waiting. By mid-January, we should have the plan from the Woodland Trust for a native, really varied planting plan for our woodland, acre and a half of woodland going in, and we should be able to plant that this season before the end of February, so stay with us to see how that goes. Anyway, onwards with the planting. Worry number 3 with these is the actual planting space that we've got. I bought them from Roots and Plants, who we've used before and always been really happy with, and I deliberately chose ones that they said were dwarf varieties that could be grown on patios or in smaller gardens, so that we could keep them controlled within the fruit cage. Obviously there's only a certain amount of height within there, only a certain amount of spread that we want them to have, because there's quite a lot that we're trying to cram into a small space, and I knew I was pushing my luck with it, with the amount I was planning to put in there. And in fact I have made the executive decision this morning that 2 of the trees that we were going to put in we're actually going to put over in the orchard instead, but we're still trying to protect as much of the fruit as we can from birds, because we've had particularly cherries in the past and just been heartbroken because the birds get them before we can get anywhere near them. But the reason I'm worried is when they arrived and I started to create the planting plan, just to work out where I was going to put what, and I'll show you that in a second. When I started to do a bit more research onto the rootstock, these are grafted onto. All of the planting distances say that it can grow to up to 4 metres, both in height and spread, which is much bigger than we need them to be. We want them to be no bigger than 2, somewhere between 1.5 and 2. Now, I spent a long time trying to figure out what had happened, had I ordered the wrong thing, and I think the answer is that with some very careful pruning and management, they can be kept under 1.5 metres, between 1.5 metres and 2 metres, which we're happy to do, and that was always the plan. However, what that's made it hard for me to figure out is what the planting distances should be, because all the planting distances for this rootstock, if you look it up, you're going to let it grow to full height. So on the plan I've done, most of them have got 3 metres at least between them, between 3 and 4 metres, with some bushes in between. I'm hoping that will work, but this could be the second biggest mistake. If they manage to survive the flood and the water, they may well be planted too close together, and it could be another regret, but let's just see. Okay, we're starting to get the trees in. Not everything that's on the plan that you saw has arrived. We knew that was going to be the case. They split the order so that we could get some of the items before the others were ready. So we're just starting to dig our holes, and something I've learned from another YouTuber, which I believe to be true, is that it's best to dig a square hole rather than a round hole, so that the roots don't curl round on themselves. I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but that's what we're going to do. And Mr. Wilkes has started to recover from his injury, so has very kindly offered to help with some digging, and is just grabbing a barrow full of compost. Okay, a little tour of what we've planted. I would take you through the door, but it's still a bit soggy there. But we would come in through the door here, and we're gonna obviously have all of this wood chipped, so effectively all the way around all of the plants of the pathway. It's pretty boggy at the minute, but actually it isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be when I first started. So it is wet, but it hasn't been standing water wet, and it's certainly made for nice easy planting. Wilkes may disagree in terms of easy digging, but he did a fine job for me. Our first little berry bush here, and it's teeny, which is why we've just marked it so we don't stand on it, is a chokeberry. A Roan of Viking is the variety, and then we come on to 1, 2, 3, 4 blueberries, and we have 4 varieties of blueberry which should fruit at slightly different times. Well, 3 should fruit at different times, and then 1 is a different type of blueberry. So this one is the blueberry blue crop. This This one here is a blueberry duke. This one over here is a blueberry pink sapphire. So that is a pink blueberry, so something a little bit different. And this one here is a blueberry Haut Blue Petite Compact. So they're the 4 blueberry bushes. And then we come on to the final fruit bush, which is the josterberry, which is no variety on it, just josterberry. So then we come to our trees. So up in this top corner is one of the peaches, and that is the peregrine peach. We come across to the trio, 1, 2, 3 of cherry trees, and they're planted close to one another because they are not self-pollinating trees. So the 3 of those will pollinate one another. They were sold as a set because they cross-pollinate. The 2 peach trees in here and the plum tree in here are all self-pollinating, so don't need to be close to other trees. So the 3 cherry types are Merchant, Cordia, and Regina. And then our final 2 trees coming back round to the front. The second peach tree in the middle is the Sauterne peach, and then the plum, which is a good old Victoria plum tree over here. So they're all planted. What I've got left to do now is the raspberries, which are going along here. When they come, they're not here yet. The strawberries will be running along this line here up to the door and along that row there, but eventually we're going to let them just make their way across, and we'll keep pathways clear, but otherwise strawberries can grow as they wish wild across the floor of this fruit cage. And then at the back, along the back wall there, will be the loganberry, which also isn't here yet. So just now I'm going to do the 3 different types of raspberry. So we've got a summer fruiting, which will go at this end, and that is a raspberry Glen Ample. And then I've got 2 autumn fruiting, but I think they should all fruit at different times slightly. The Autumn Bliss, which I think lots of people are familiar with, and the Raspberry Poker, which was a new one for me but came as part of a set again that are supposed to fruit at different times. So they're the last bits to go in here, and then we just have 2 trees left which are going to go over in the mini orchard. There's a little orchard of apple trees, so we have a pear tree and another cherry tree, both of which are self-pollinating, which are going to go over there. And that will be all the planting done for today. Raspberries, 2 more trees.